Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Tanya, your host. You are watching On the Town with Tanya. I am here today with the director of Downey side. He is also the in charge of the Needs Parents campaign. Excuse me. Please welcome Brother Terry. Hello, Brother Terry.
Well, hello there, Tanya. How are you today?
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so
Good,
much
good, good.
for taking the time to come and be with us. We appreciate you. So children. We're talking about children today, foster children. I also probably will touch a little bit about homeless children. Like for instance, how you got started. I think it was you said it was 77 or something when
Yeah.
you first started encounter homeless children. So tell us how you got into this whole thing of working with children.
Well, I was looking for something to do after college,
Hmm.
and I didn't want to sell copiers, is the way I put it. And I also didn't want to be a monk or a social worker.
Hmm.
But I lucked out and I joined a volunteer group that placed me with Downey Side, which is an adoption agency for adolescent kids.
Hmm.
And I just fell in love with the mission. There's something about I grew up in an intact family, and I can still to this day cannot comprehend
Hmm.
the notion that a kid would grow up without a family.
Right.
And
Right.
I met kids who were growing up without families, and it just they need families, you
Yes.
know.
Touch your heart. Yeah, I'm one of those kids that grew up without a family at first, and then I got lucky and got to a good home, and would have been adopted, but some things went left. Two of my brothers were bad, I'll just say, and so it went left, and I chose not to be adopted at that point because it would have been awkward. But I agree that children need family first versus group home life.
Well, what you suggested is that there was an emotional adoption.
Mhm.
You got connected to somebody. I
Yes.
don't care whether you call it adoption or schmoption or foster care or uncle and aunt or Pete and Susie or Susie and Susie or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
as long as people are connected,
Yes, yes, and I
that's
still have
what's important.
connections with the most of the family members. Only two I don't. Obviously, one's dead and one I don't really deal with. But the rest I do. So the connection is everything, and that's why it's important to have a family because they teach you the world connections that you're going to need to make in order
Right.
to progress and be a well-rounded human being. I'll say,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
I totally get it.
Well, I'm 67 and I'm a Catholic friar, Franciscan friar.
Now tell me about that, Friar.
Okay.
Explain the difference. I think I know, but I don't want to because I lived with nuns. I lived with
Oh, okay.
Tanyas on 60th Street. I lived and there used to be a convent there,
Yeah,
and
I know what agency it is. Yeah.
yeah, so I used to be one of their girls,
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
of your girls. Yeah, so
Hmm.
yeah,
Okay. Well, I'm like a male nun, basically.
right. That's what I thought, but okay.
Yeah, and um, I'm not an ordained priest. I'm a
Hmm.
monk, or I'm a friar. Technically, I'm a friar,
Okay.
and it gets really complicated
Yeah.
and boring.
Actually, it's not boring to me.
Oh, okay.
My foster mother was a minister, first woman ordained.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm a Bible girl, and I know all the whole. I mean, I became a Buddhist. I'm a Quaker now, but I
Oh,
still have
cool.
all
I
my
love
values on.
Quakers. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm all
yeah.
my values are on the
Hmm.
basic principles of all
Right,
basic religions. I
right.
mean, it's nothing. It's people make it into this big thing, and I'm like, do you believe? Are you going to follow? Are you going to do the right things?
Are you
Period.
kicking
That's it.
old ladies down the stairs?
Right.
You
Exactly. If you do
know,
the right thing, we don't have to go into details. You know,
right, right.
it's like God.
Everybody's got different opinions about what happens when we pass,
and
and
it doesn't matter. It's what did you do while you were here?
exactly,
That's
exactly.
that's the part that kills me. I'm like, why are we having this conversation? Because it doesn't matter what you did, what if if you died or you're dead, it doesn't matter. It's what did you do when you were alive? Were you
Exactly.
helping people? Were you kind? Were you
Right.
giving a word of cheer? Were you know what I'm saying? Like that's everything. And if you're not
Yep.
doing that, then you're not of any kind of God at all. And you shouldn't, no one should speak. I can't stand when people say, oh, I'm a Christian, I'm this, I'm that. And then they do things that totally negate that. I'm like,
Right.
So you didn't want to help the homeless man because he's homeless, or you didn't want to when you had the chance. I'm saying not just randomly going around helping people, but when you had the opportunity, you wouldn't even do
Right,
what
right,
God
right.
would have done. You know,
Yeah.
so that's my thing. But I have a great respect for especially nuns. I'm obsessed with nuns in a good way.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Well,
So you came through Downey side through Friar Paul. Is that correct?
yes,
Okay, so
yes.
tell us about that. Yeah.
Well, he was another Capuchin, like I'm a Capuchin Franciscan.
Mm-hmm.
And you've heard of St. Francis of Assisi?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, he started an order, and Father Paul was also a Capuchin Franciscan,
Mm-hmm.
following in the footsteps of St. Francis.
Mm-hmm.
And St. Francis was 800 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and he dealt with lepers who, in the time of St. Francis,
Mm-hmm.
was they were ostracized. They
Right.
were like the lowest of the low.
Mm-hmm.
And Father Paul realized that we treat kids who are in the system like the lowest of the low very often.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have a voice.
No.
And he grew up in a family like I do. He had six brothers and sisters. I had five. And this Irish Catholic thing, and he couldn't comprehend either
Mm-hmm.
that kids would grow up without a family. That just, and so one day he was working in a church,
Mm-hmm.
which is what priests do,
Mm-hmm.
and this kid came up to him and said, "Hey, Father, I'd like to join the. I'd like to become a priest."
Mm-hmm.
And so Paul asked him, and it turned out this kid was homeless.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And so he introduced this kid, whose name was Brian,
Mm-hmm.
to a woman by the name of Margaret Downey.
Oh, so that's
That's
where
how we get Downey side. Yep. And they adopted each other. They didn't fill out any paperwork or anything like that. There wasn't any judge involved,
right.
but they adopted each other.
Wow. That's amazing.
And that's how Downey side got started. And so adoption is an important tool that we use for many, many kids, for most kids.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, and but it's important that the families and the kids get connected on an emotional level.
Very important. Very.
That's the crucial thing.
Mm-hmm.
The paperwork it can be important, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not nearly as important as people's feelings and feeling safe.
Very crucial and very important.
Yeah.
Is that what the campaign is about? The Children Needs
Well,
Parents campaign?
the Children Need Parents campaign is a spinoff of Downey Side.
Okay.
Downey Side has two purposes. One is to place kids.
Okay.
We're an adoption agency, and the other is to educate the general public about the situation.
Okay.
And I've come to the conclusion that we don't have to have kids who are waiting for family.
Mm-hmm.
There's about 1 million kids who are displaced in the country today.
Yes.
There's 500,000 kids in foster care and juvenile justice. And then God only knows how many kids on the street.
Yes. I heard like 4 million worldwide.
It could easily be that.
It's crazy.
I don't know the international stuff, but the national stuff is a lot. The thing is that we don't have to sit here and say, oh, well, too bad that there's all these homeless kids. We could find families for every single one of them.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
We find the average age of the kids at Downey Side places is about 13.
13. Wow.
There are families who will take in kids who are 15, 16, 17-year old with brothers and sisters and, 2 left feet and green eyes or ground,
Right.
you name it. Okay. There is a family for every single one of these kids. Most of the kids could go back to their birth families, first of all.
Right. Right. And I'm so happy you say that because and one day we're going to have a roundtable discussion about this, but that's a big thing is like a lot of times if they just did the other work, they would see that, there's little things that just need to be done. Like mom, maybe send her to rehab. Maybe, dad
Like
doesn't
$500 a month. If you're short of $500 a month for a couple of months in a row,
right.
you are in danger of losing your kids.
I know. It's crazy.
It's that simple.
It's crazy. And also, well, sorry.
There was a story about Downey. I don't know if you remember that story in the New York Times. about 6 weeks ago, or a little girl named Dasani,
Oh,
and it was about a girl who got placed in a really fancy school in Pennsylvania,
mm-hmm.
but then everything fell apart in her family. And there was a telling line in the story that because mom got sent away because she was some it was a complicated story. I mean, none of this is simple. And but dad lost the apartment because he didn't have the money to pay the heat or the electricity.
That's crazy. That is just
What
crazy.
is that? $200 a month. He lost the apartment. Lose the apartment, the kids get separated and go to foster care.
That is
And
crazy.
what happens? It goes down the toilet from there.
Yep.
And if we had just simply given that guy $300 or whatever, I don't know what the money was.
Whatever it was, right? Yeah. No, I totally get it. It would have been avoided.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know, and the, the families are not. No family is like, I don't know who are the. I grew up with the Ozzy and Harriet and all those guys. I don't know who the good families are today on TV. I got to find out. Um, but we have these TV images of the perfect family. There's no such thing.
No, there is.
Every family in the world has got Uncle Harry. You
Yes.
know,
Yes.
and there's nothing wrong with Uncle Harry, but he's having a moment. You know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and so every family has its moments. Um, some families are really not doing well. Okay,
Yes. I
we
know.
have come a long way. If you take a long look at it, say
Hmm.
like go back 100 years ago, and people could beat their kids half to death, and it would be all right.
Hmm.
We are to a place today where we will protect those children. You can't beat your kids,
No.
okay?
No.
But it's really hard to raise kids. It's
It is.
really hard to raise any kids under any circumstances. I don't care how much money you don't have, whether you have a doula or a schmooler, or a nurse or somebody to help you with kids.
Right.
It ain't easy.
No.
It
That's
stands to reason that some people are gonna just not do well.
right.
Okay, so we stand prepared. Families who are not getting it together,
Hmm.
we stand prepared to make a decision. But in foster care, that decision takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years
Right.
to make the decision.
Right.
And that's really bad for kids to wait for that long.
I know. I waited all my life. I waited from five. Well, the first time I went in at three, but I don't remember that time. My cousin had to remind me. And then 5 till 18. And then,
Hmm.
then I signed myself back in until 21 because I didn't have, I was like, I really don't have much. What am I going to do? But after
Right.
dealing with abuse from 9 to 15, it came to the realization like, oh, what is on my own? Because I was ignoring every lesson that was being given to me because I was so focused on the abuse, you know.
Right.
So I
Right.
had to really get it together and start my own therapy and really, say, okay, we're going to hone this in. And modeling actually saved my life.
Oh, really? Okay.
Ironically, don't ask how, but I don't know how I didn't fall into the pitfalls of Lucifer at that point, because that business is very cunning. So I'm lucky that even with my trauma and my abuse, that I wasn't one of those that took it and used it, sent it to the other place that was trauma and abused me. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right. Yeah.
Very blessed. I don't know how that. I mean, I know how. God, I totally God. It was
Hmm.
totally God guiding me, and I had no idea it was Him guiding me.
Hmm.
But there's so many times I think back of deals that were offers that were made, and but I was always like, nah, I'm good, thanks. No matter how much money
Okay.
you offered me, you couldn't get me to do whatever you want me to do. I'm not that.
Okay.
Never. It's just never been in my character. But also because of my abuse, I was very stingent upon my values. That was the last
Okay.
thing I had was my values.
Hmm.
So it
Hmm.
worked in my favor, but I know that's not usually the case. I
So
have.
no, no. I mean, there are people who get past and get beyond. But most of us, I'm a basically normal individual. I'm in the 50th percentile or whatever I don't know what the numbers are, but I would wound up either if what happened to me had happened to Joe Bolduc, no, the other way. If what had happened to Joe Bolduc had happened to me,
Right.
I'd either be up in the tower with a rifle
Right.
or sitting in the corner playing orange I'm an orange, leave me alone.
Tell me
Um,
about that. That's the book. Doesn't anyone consider suicide? Is that
no,
what he
it's not a
said?
book. That's
Wait.
a comment that Joe Bullock made to me. He looked at me and this is how I learned about what this is about.
Mhm.
Joe was a kid. He had been in 21 placements by the time he was 18.
Wow. That's
Hello, who
that's
deserves that kind of treatment?
21. Wow.
And by the time he was in his fifth placement, and he was probably six, he realized that it's war between me and them.
Mm.
And what's he do? He kicks people in the teeth. And what do? They say, I don't want to be kicked in the teeth. Get rid of the kid, because they were told
Right.
they could get rid of the kid if it doesn't work out.
Right.
And that's not something that I tell families. You can't get rid of the kid. It's working out. I don't care what it looks like. It's
No,
working out.
that's horrible. But the fact to get rid of the kid, I had a friend, my friend Will, my ex-boyfriend Brian's best friend, and he was one of those kids that it's so sad that he was adopted, and the adopted parents gave him back. He ended up ODing somewhere. I think it was
Yeah.
suicide. But I was like, how do you go? I mean, we used to be like, we're your friend, we love you, but it was like, what were we gonna say? What are we gonna say? You don't have no other family, nobody else. What am I gonna really say to you? And that to me, you should never be even thinking about adopting a kid if you have any conception in your mind that you could possibly like give them back if they don't
Right.
work out. Like it's not a product.
Well, the system that surrounds the systems that surround the kids
Mhm.
allow that
Right.
and perpetuate it.
Oh.
I don't want to go there. I just
I got you. I got you.
know Joe was a beautiful, beautiful kid, and I failed him because I did not find him a family.
Mm-hmm.
And he's one of the people who didn't make it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wow.
But at one point, he looked at me and he said, "Doesn't everybody consider suicide?" As though, hey, today is Tuesday, the sun is shining, um, Joe Biden is president, Bill Gates runs Microsoft, and doesn't everybody could? And I said, "Oh my God, I'm
Wow.
not in touch with something here," because this kid's world is such that he fights that all the time, and there was nothing wrong with Joe. I mean,
Right.
it wasn't like, God bless us, or people who have like depression,
Right.
physiological depression,
Right.
and they grapple with suicide.
Mm-hmm.
This wasn't Joe. Joe wasn't depressed.
Mm.
There was absolutely nothing wrong with Joe, although he probably had psychiatric diagnoses up the wazoo.
Yeah, they always give us that.
Yeah, there's something wrong with you. It's not me.
Yeah, I'm glad my foster mother wouldn't have it. She was like, no, she doesn't need anything. I mean, she was old school too. She was like, nothing but a good old spanking won't help. And they
Right.
were like, you can't spank her. They'll get it taken away. She said, he said, if you want to take all the kids back, be my guest. But
Thank you.
I'm gonna teach them the way I want to teach them, and they'll be
Yeah.
fine. Trust me. And she was right. I hate to say it, and I'm a Quaker. I wouldn't, well, I maybe spank my kids a couple times. Younger confession of the mom, but nothing like severe traumatized
Right.
or
And
something.
there is a difference between a spank and a beating.
Yeah, and I wouldn't do it now if I was having kids, but at that time I didn't know any better. What do you do? I mean, it worked
Well,
for me. I only had maybe, I don't know, 3 spankings in my whole life as a
yeah,
kid with her. So it wasn't like, every week, because I know by just the way she looked at me, maybe I want to try that today.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
You know,
and it was
and
okay.
it's. I remember I got spanked once. It was one of the funniest things ever. It
Mhm.
was it was great, um, because my little brother was getting spanked with me,
Uh-huh.
and my little brother started screaming, "Oh, daddy, daddy, it hurts too, right? It hurts." He hadn't even hit him yet, and he goes, it hurts. I can feel it already. I can feel it already. You know. And so I started laughing, and so did my father. And I said, "Hit me now," while I'm laughing.
No, you didn't.
I did,
I
yeah.
could see you. I could see you doing that.
And
Hey,
so,
hit me.
yeah, it was great. It was a good spanking.
That's hilarious. I had a brother like that. It was like, oh,
Yeah,
hey, I'm ready to take a gun. I was like, what are you doing? Like, you're anticipating this. He's like, God, I know I did wrong. I was like, you set yourself up for this great thing.
yeah,
And at least he had owned up to it. I mean,
right, right.
that's the thing. But yeah. You had said something
Anyway,
else. Oh, go ahead.
Um,
Finish that statement.
well, it's just a funny story.
Mm,
But the thing is, there's a lot of families.
mhm.
Families will take tough kids, and there are some kids who are beat up and they're traumatized, and their behavior is not comfortable. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Um, some families have to put their kids in jail
Oh God, that's horrible.
because, I mean, there's certain things that you're not allowed to do.
Yes, but also, but are they keeping in mind the severe trauma? I mean, there's kids who've been severely sexually abused so bad that I can't even believe they're still alive. Honestly,
Exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
like, whoa, you are what I call a miracle because
But visit the jail. Visit the jail. If
I
your
was
kid
in a
goes
jail.
to jail, go to the jail and make sure the jail isn't abusing the kid. If the kid has to go to a hospital, visit the hospital. Make sure the doctors aren't abusing the kids.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what parents do.
yes,
That's what families do.
mm,
And so there are tough kids and there are families who can deal with the tough kids.
mm,
But there's not that many of those, relatively speaking. There's 83 million families in this country.
right,
It
mm,
comes out to 0.01% of the families
right,
taking a kid, and we're good to go.
mm, mm, mm,
It's but people are not dumb.
right,
Families are not going to take a kid when you got social workers coming in to
mhm,
tell them how to do it.
right. Yeah,
Not
but that's a catch 22 because it's like here's the thing. I think it's a win-win if you find a family that really sincerely was called to God to be parents. Like that's just it. Not
yeah,
I can make some money. Not well, let's just try it out, dear, like a vacuum cleaner. That's not the kind of person you need. They need people that say, "This is my mission. I'm going to change your life somehow or another, and that's what I'm going
right,
to do." That's what they need. And there are a lot of people out here. We're just not finding them. The people that they need to scrutinize, they don't. And the people that they need to say, well, all right, maybe it's a single lady. Maybe, well, now they did open it up so a single person could adopt if they wanted to.
hmm
They
hmm
make it. They make all these crazy rules, which are good ones to protect the kids, but people still get back past them. Like Steinberg got past with Lisa, and he was a lawyer. Because he was a lawyer, everyone just probably said we'll just sign off on all his paperwork because
right.
he's a lawyer. Meanwhile, he was abusing this poor
He
girl.
was also white.
Well, that was good. Well, see, I'm glad you brought that up because that's a whole nother can of worms. So, I mean, okay, if I can tell you from the 50s, I've been researching from the 50s to now. Oh my gosh, they'll snatch a black kid out of a home quicker than you can say sneeze, blue.
Yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, what's her name? The reporter did a story on it. Finding what's the name of the girl? Darn it.
finding Lisa or finding.
No, I have the book over there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I forgot the name of the book, but she was a New York Times. It was a New York Times bestseller, and she was a reporter. And she did about the first case of this girl. What's her name?
It's on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, I can't remember, but you have an idea what I'm talking about. But when I saw that, and I talked to people in Australia who were adopted, people who were in
Mhm.
Ireland, and it's a different beast over there. Like parents were like 15, and so if you get pregnant at 15, the first thing they're gonna do because they don't believe in abortion, obviously, is they're gonna send you to that home with them
Right,
nuns,
right,
and you
right,
go
right.
live there, have the baby, quickly get the baby off, and go adopt it. So they may not have really even wanted to have the baby adopted, but they were adopted because you ain't having no baby in this household.
Right, right, right. Yeah. And
You know?
so thankfully some of that is loosening up.
Yeah, it is.
Um, Families are becoming much more flexible
Yes, that's a good word. Flex.
than they were, say, in 1950. The image that people have
Mhm,
of what a family looks like
mhm.
is changing.
Yes.
Some people are screaming that the life is going to hell in a handbasket.
Well, it sounds like it is, but I thank God I have faith.
Well, we've got movement. We've got forward movement, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
we do.
and I don't know. It's complicated.
Yeah.
Um, I'm I'm an optimistic person
Yeah.
in large part because of the people that I've worked with over the course of the last umpty years.
Hmm.
Um, the families who have taken kids, the good ones, okay,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of them. Trust me,
Yeah.
there are a lot of them. You can't play with them. You got to tell them the truth. We tell them, in Downey side, you're going to not want to do this at some point.
Mm,
These kids are going to make you nuts.
mm, mm.
And you have to go through that issue because it's not the kids, it's you.
Right.
It's you. You've got to change your whatever you got to
Right.
change it.
Right.
So change it. What's the big deal?
Right.
Your hopes, your dreams, your expectations, if they're unreal, get real ones.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and people do that. They change themselves. They change to meet the needs of the kids.
Well, that's a very, I mean, that's any parenting. I think when someone becomes a parent, they have to change to meet the needs of the kids too. So it's realistic.
Yeah.
What do you think about this? So I was talking to some former foster youth who we all started nonprofits. I have one too, not Foster Kids Unite. And we try to provide non-traditional services for aged out foster youth, like gift boxes, scholarships, whatever. And somebody else does mental health with them and pay
Hmm.
bills and stuff like that. So everybody has different things that we do. But we were trying to figure out why big agencies never call us to be in on the foster care parent trainings, because we can give more insight than they will ever have in their entire life. And so they pay all these people big time money to come in, and I'm like, they were never even in foster care. Like, how are they going to be able to advise on this except for the technical paperwork part, which I know it's all about paperwork a lot of times. So that kind of sucks. And I mean, it's going to always be, you have to have a paper trail. So I'm not saying we don't want that. I'm just saying it's like that when it comes to training a foster parent or adopted parent, there's certain things that, like, I wrote a book, Surviving Foster Care, Making It Work for You. I wrote a book, and I'm like, some people, about 300 people have read it. So that's fine. That's great. And I had a
Hmm.
social worker and I had a writer, a known writer, say, this needs to be a handbook guide for foster youth and for
Right,
anybody
right, right,
a kid, because you get to go into my mind. And it's not just my mind. I've talked to thousands of other kids who've been in foster care to see, how did you feel when you were 5? How did you feel when you first went in? How did you, I get all the data, and just for myself, I was really collecting it. It wasn't even for no massive thing. It's just
hmm
important to know, if you can't see, visualize, or see where this person whose parents just left them with strangers is coming from, there is no way you're going to be able to. Good luck. I'll say good luck.
right, right,
Your mission. It's going to be a hard mission, and it would be so much easier for half. I'd say we would cut it in half if they were to say, let's have teams of 3 former foster youth who are doing nonprofits now. Let's have them in, and we'll have them as a panel, because I do a foster kids panel every year for my event in May. And
hmm
people say that really helps a lot. I had everybody always leaves wanting to adopt when they leave, because it's like, okay, not all foster kids are bad, and even if they had an issue, like I had an issue, but I don't abuse kids. Why? Because
right,
I had therapy.
hmm
Because why? Because I knew better, but I don't, I did all the due diligence that's needed to do as a human being to make sure that myself is correct on my mental level. You know what I'm
right,
saying? Not everybody,
yeah,
most people don't do that.
right,
And I can tell foster parents and adopted parents who are scared to take older kids, don't be scared. My mother got me at 7. Most people say, no way, I'm not taking a 7-year-old. Why not? I was the best kid she ever had. Sorry, guys. I'm the one. I hate to tell you that in national or whatever. But yeah, but I'm the best thing ever. I mean, literally, I never gave her trouble. I never went to jail. None of us went to jail. Well, no, one for something was stupid, but nobody ever went to jail. No, I mean, there's some others that had issues.
serious
Obviously,
levels, yeah, yeah.
obviously, if I got abused, 2 people had issues. So that's another story. But I would turned out a good kid, consider, I think.
Hmm.
So you can take a kid at 7 and train them in the way in which you want them to go.
You could take a kid at 15
Yeah, absolutely.
and live life as time goes on. I mean, it's not. I try to help people understand that they're not trying to fix a kid.
Right, exactly.
They're
Thank
trying to live with a child.
you. Yes.
If the child is burning down the house, well,
Right.
that's a tough road to hoe. Take
Yeah.
the kid by the hand, go to the shelter, and say, "Don't do that again."
Right.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not. It's just like life. Involve this child and this child's family or these children's family
Right.
in your life.
Right.
Expand your family and make sure that you're allowing your children, your new children,
Right.
have connections to the birth family.
Yes, and that's so important. Like you're hitting on all the angles of I talk about it in my book, but that's so important. And your siblings, well, not your siblings, your new adopted child with your birth family, right? That connection also is very crucial of how that dynamics played out, and it's very important that everybody knows their role.
Right,
Oftentimes, it's assumed that, oh yeah, well that's Aunt Janie, but Aunt Janie may be a little 7:30, and nobody's told the kids. So he's like, she's so perfect, she's so great, and then she does something crazy, and they're like, oh my god, I can't trust this person. Now they
hmm
hate everybody
right,
because I wasn't warned about Janie. You see what I'm saying? So there's so many layers of adopting and taking kids in, but it's not bad or nothing to be scared
right,
if you know all the players and you know all the rules.
right.
I'm saying if you
Well,
know everything about it, then there's nothing to fear.
right. But the only way to learn everything about it is to do it about 10 times.
Right.
you know, um,
That's
it's my sister took in some kids,
true.
and they're beautiful human beings,
Hmm.
beautiful human beings. One of them was really severely traumatized when he was young, and so he didn't express it all that gracefully. And it was for some trying times in my sister's family, and they were experienced parents when they took these kids in, and they said, "This is hard. This is hard. I thought I knew what I was doing," but they didn't.
No, when that,
So
especially when it comes to trauma, that's a specific, tailored, how do I say? That's a tailor. And actually, I'm gonna try to make that my niche because I'm very good at working with traumatized children. That's like
okay,
a thing. That's like a thing of mine. I didn't even know I had the gift, but it's a special gift that I have, and I've been able to use. I used to be a substance abuse counselor, but I
okay,
my work in different modalities. Let's just say, but
hmm
traumatized kids always draw to me like glue. But because I give them tools that they can work with, that not just some dumb thing that people say, oh, it'll be all right, or get over it, or whatever the typical responses are. Or my favorite is, what did she say? My favorite is, oh, how do you feel about that? It's like, how do you think I feel about that? I don't
right,
have any emotions, like, so
exactly, yeah,
yeah, I can assess quicker where a kid is in their trauma, and then that's really where you do the work. Because if you don't know what stage they're at, or if they've buried it so deep that they just refuse to acknowledge it,
right,
it's going to keep coming out in school, hitting Tommy, knocking Tommy out, knocking
yeah,
him out, stealing, whatever, what I'm saying.
yeah,
So it's important to know all those elements. And I know at least the basic foster care, they don't. I can't explain it. I sat in. I was gonna be a foster parent, and I sat in. I was like, "Oh wait, there's no way I'm gonna sit in these because I know way more than the trainer's telling." And it's just sad that I have to tell her, like, "Why aren't you telling them X, Y, and Z?" And then I
right,
listen to some of the parents. I'm like, "They're not. I wouldn't even have them on my potential list." But I have a gift to see things that other people don't see. So maybe that's why. Maybe that's not why
yeah,
I'm kind of not good, because I can right away cut out all your crap. I can be like,
right,
nah, that's not going to work, and I can tell you
well,
why. You know,
mhm,
but there's just so many layers to this. It's not just get a kid and they got a home and be happy. It's not that simple.
no,
It's got to
no,
be a perfect fit of the family feels that they can provide love, and that it'll be a benefit to their family to also blend this love into their new family soup, right? It's a
right.
combination of
The I mean, the notion. I shook my head at perfect fit.
mhm,
Um, I it's that's troubling to me, in the sense that we sit there and first of all, in when it's done improperly,
mhm,
um, I'm making the decision as a social worker as to what's the perfect fit.
right,
And this family and this kid, I think, are going to work. That's tappy, okay?
mhm,
That's people will use the language perfect fit in
mhm,
that situation where the social worker is making the decision, and that can't be a perfect fit
mhm,
because the principles involved are the family and the kids. They're the ones who should be making the decision.
mhm. There it is.
And I look at the marriage rate. I mean, there's a lot of divorce going on, and these are people who are like saying I'm not going to get married so I can get divorced. They're saying I'm going to get married so I can stay married, and
Right.
then they get divorced.
We
We
don't
don't
have
have
the
we
same.
don't have a algorithm to say, well, this is going to work. You got to be ready for the messy,
Well, the long haul, I call it.
the long haul. Yeah, you're 100% right.
That's what it is, and nobody wants the long haul because after all this stuff going on in society, especially with COVID, nobody's got the attention span to be that focused that long. That's kind of how I equate all the catastrophes going on, earthquakes and weather things, and just weird fires in California and the Amazon, like weird
Hmm.
things going on outside of just you. Now
Right.
you got to bring this all this other element into it. Nobody has. They just don't have. We want to have it, but we don't.
Right.
And with computers and being on a computer, we want immediate gratification right now.
Hmm.
And if we
Hmm.
can't have it, oh well, get rid of it.
Right. Right.
Sad.
Well, I mean, that's yeah. The thing is that there's a lot of people who can do it and are doing it and will do it.
Definitely,
Um,
definitely.
there's a lot of horror stories about foster parents who are doing it for the money or for the wrong reasons or to use the kids.
Yes.
But I think the majority of foster parents are doing the best they can
Mm,
for the kids with the tools that they're given
mm.
by a very broken system.
Yes, it is. And well, with the broken system, that I remember you said that in something. The broken system, this is the thing. We've been saying the broken system for since the 50s. I don't even know. And to me, it all boils down. Doesn't that come down to the people who run the system? And they're usually always the same people running the system, sadly to
Yeah,
say.
they
It's
look a
not.
lot like me for just not for nothing, but
I wasn't going to go there, but that is true
somebody
too.
has to say it. Yeah.
That is true too. It is usually, I mean, I'm trying to think of all the people all the systems I know. It is male run, white male run. I
Oh
think.
yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it? Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to think of who is not.
Well, Gladys Carrion was running ACS for a while,
Okay,
and
so Gladys.
she was she was a woman of color.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
And there was one other person I thought, but
Mr. Little,
uh,
um, Malcolm X's brother.
yes. Oh, okay, okay. So I'll say, yeah, say that's awesome. Yeah.
But
Mhm.
but they don't have the resources that they need, and
Right,
if they ask for the resources they need, they get fired.
right. Mm,
Okay, there
wow.
isn't a study ever done on the systems
Yeah,
that
but
doesn't say it doesn't have enough resources.
that's the
Translate that
thing.
into
Mhm,
money. It
mhm.
doesn't have enough money.
But no, but it has plenty of money. It's just the money they don't get. Trust me when I tell you, I did some research. There's money. It's just not going into my hands and your hands. It's gonna the top up. They make a lot of money, and that's the part of the system that I'm still mind boggled by. I'm like, you got people making 150,000 a year. They're getting their bonus and everything. And I went to speak at a place in Ohio. I was so shocked. I spoke to about 300 kids, and I went, and these kids were a lot of them from indigenous community. They were foster youth, and they had like jeans from like the 70s on. I was like, why?
Hmm.
I said, I'm not trying to be funny, but why does everybody have clothes on that like right out of like some movie from like the 70s? And they were like, oh, we don't get allowance. We don't get this, and we don't get. I said, what? You don't get? What about your clothes allowance? You don't get $100 a month? No, we don't get that here. I said, please tell me you're just making that up. So I went and asked the counselor, and she's like, yeah, oh yeah, they don't really have any money. I was like, but you got nice clothes. You're driving a nice car. And I'm sure you live in a nice house. So how is that possible? That means that whoever's over you, it lives an even nicer life and a nicer car and a nicer,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? So I
But you
said,
got Tanya, you got to take a step back from that
okay.
because yes, I understand that there's a disparity between the different levels,
Hmm.
but people fighting over chump change is what it is. Okay, because if you look at family court judges in the city of New York,
Yeah.
they've got caseloads in the hundreds.
Hmm.
You look at the social workers across the country, and they've got caseloads, and they'll brag, "Oh, I've only got 20 cases."
Hmm.
That's like 150 people that you're trying to manage.
Hmm.
That's not possible. You can't do that. What we have to do is double and triple the number of staff.
Right.
And then we have to train them
Right.
because the kind of training that you could provide,
Mm.
they're not getting.
Mm.
They should be on a familiar name with Tanya
Right.
and with some of your colleagues who grew up in the system
Mhm.
and with other foster parents who know what they're talking about and adoptive parents who know what they're talking about.
Mm.
Those are the people who taught me.
Right.
If I'm able to evoke anything that makes sense to you, it's because people like Joe Bullock
Right.
and other foster parents and adoptive parents have taught me.
Mm.
Okay. But it's expensive to train people like that, relatively speaking.
Yeah, but when I think about like this person was trying to get me to open a group home, and it was like I looked into it and I was like they were willing to pay something crazy like $10,000 a month for like per kid or something crazy. I was like, how much are they out of their minds? Where is this money coming from? So I know there's money. There's money. I don't know where it's going to, but it's somebody high
Yeah,
up money because they ain't
I
going to do
think.
the job for free. I already know the people that run these kind of corporations. They will not be doing. They're not that nice.
Well, you can't do it for free because
Oh,
rent
there you
comes
go.
too.
See, I do my work for free. I do my charity for free. And I know when the people get high up, I'm talking about way high up, they're not doing it for free, which tells me this money is somewhere because somebody, I bet you if I went through everybody's budget through a fine tooth comb, I'd find all the money. And that's the part that kills me. Not just I can't say which agency or nothing like that. I'm just saying a lot of them, they're shuffling dollars around and they're getting dollars. I know for a fact they're getting dollars. I know people who work
Oh
at
yeah.
they're getting
Well, I
money,
mean,
but the kids
I
ain't getting the money. And
no,
they're
the
not
kids
putting
don't
it
get.
into the foster parents and they're not putting it into the social workers.
No, no.
Yeah. So
And
it's sad.
I take the minority position in this, and I don't think there's enough money in the system.
Okay.
So, but
They
I
might
mean,
have taken
we
it out
have
for
to
their
be.
retirement.
So what?
They might have taken it out for their retirement. I'm just saying.
They. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm not an accountant. Never
I
was.
know. I'm
Yeah.
not an accountant, but I've seen some
Well,
interesting
I've
things.
seen the numbers too. You
Yeah.
know, um, but
Interesting numbers.
if you look at the big picture, you'll see there's just not enough money to do the kinds of things. We should have 3 or 4 times many social workers who
Right.
are being trained by people like you.
Right.
And
Right.
so we should pay people like you to
Right.
train the social workers.
Oh, it would be so much easier for them and less expensive because what they do is they hire contract people out and they charge them. I used to have somebody get the contracts from the state, right? And they
Hmm.
would hire me and pay me less, of course, to
Right,
do the same thing. I was like, why would they hire her to be in charge when I already know I know everything you need to know? And
right.
I got extra tips because I've been in the system. I've worked for the system. I've been all three angles. So I
Yeah,
know what everybody needs and what will make
mhm,
everybody happy. But
yeah.
they still bypass us like, that doesn't matter. And I said, one day when it all collapsed, they'll be coming back saying, where are those former foster youth at? Because we need to figure out how to get this to the right level. I just find
Well,
it's like if I wouldn't have a bunch of men um tell me what to do with kids either because I'm like, you need one woman, at least one estrogen, just one piece of estrogen. You need one estrogen. Come on. I mean, you need a
mhm,
mom. So that's how I feel about foster care. They have all these people running it, and I'm talking at the highest level, running it, and they're not even considering the people that really know all the little fine holes that are in it. We can see it so clear.
right.
So it says to me they don't want to fix it. That's what it says to me because it just not and that's not every agency. That's
Uh,
just some.
Right. On the mega level, we don't want to fix it
Right.
because it's about brown and black kids.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
that's on the top level.
Oh, I know.
Um, and um, and I'm not even talking about the people who are running the system with names.
Right.
I'm talking
Exactly.
about society
Mhm.
disvalues
Oh,
women and children of color
absolutely. And you know how I know?
because
Whenever I do, whenever I do for my organization, whenever I do fundraisers, I got people that give more to cats and dogs before they give to my kids because they assume that all my kids are black, which they're not. So, and
right.
I notice my other kids, they do get way more services than the other kids,
Hmm.
and they know why. We know why, but it is what it is. That's
It
America.
is. Yeah.
It's
And
welcome
it's,
to America.
but on the other hand, I'm thinking back when I started working in child welfare,
Mhm.
people would not admit that they had been in foster care.
Wow.
Adults were ashamed of having been in foster care because there's something wrong with them and
Yes.
there's something wrong with their family.
Yeah. Well, a
We
lot
have
of.
come to a place where people such as yourself can
Mhm.
say, yeah, I was in foster care,
Mhm.
and what of it? Or whatever your approach is.
Yes.
Um, when I started, people didn't know that kids bounce from home to home to home.
Yes.
Not a clue. Most of the time when I'm talking to people who don't know anything about foster care,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of them,
Right.
they're aware that kids bounce from home to home to home.
Mhm.
So there is slow but forward movement. I mean, that's
Right.
40 years of banging the drum, you know?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Like, so in my community, I reach out to like the churches when I can because I know there's a lot of people that don't know anything about foster kids.
Right,
So every year I have an event and I invite people that I know have no idea, like the seniors group at the Presbyterian church or the so and
right,
so. And I speak for the Katona such and such in this place. I speak for those people and I don't even charge anything. I speak. Sometimes they give me stuff, but I don't care about that. I care about do you need to know the message because you never know when you're going to encounter a foster youth or a youth without a parent.
right.
And if you encounter them and you don't know what to say, that might be the prevalent moment that changes their life for good or for bad. Either
Hmm.
way, flip either way. And I say that because as a child growing up as young as 5, I remembered every adult that I encountered that was a bad experience, meaning that they just ignored me or that said, "Hi, how are you today? What are you doing?" And they recognized me. I
Hmm.
remember that. So it's so important. So many elements of this is just important. But
Well,
I'm glad.
invite me to your next event, please.
Oh, absolutely. May at the end of May every year we do the same. We had a foster survivor book panel. Everybody had written a book. It was fabulous.
Really?
Oh, it was
Wow.
fabulous. We recorded it and we send it out when people need it. It was
Okay.
fabulous. Yeah, it was fabulous.
Yeah.
And we're going to do it again this year because we find that people really learn in the community when they hear each of our stories and they learn something. Like one lady said, she actually came into the meeting when this time we had to do Zoom last 2 times because of the pandemic, but the last one before that, a lady was just walking by and jogging and said, yeah, she just wanted to go in. So she went in the library and she came past the room and saw all these people. It's like 80 people sitting in there. Sometimes it's
Hmm.
100, depends on what I'm doing. And she stopped and she heard something with foster kids and adoption. And I just so happened to have a lawyer speaking about adoption that year. And
Hmm.
she stopped and she said, "Can I sit down?" I said, she was in jogging clothes. I said, "Of course." So she sat down and she stayed through the whole thing. And when she was done, she was like, I've been wanting to adopt forever, forever. Like it's been a thing. And
Right.
and like the spirit like called me here and I normally never stop when I'm jogging, but I just stopped something to go in and I went in, then I looked at the book, then I heard this thing talking about foster kids. And I said, well, then I came in and sat down and this woman said everything that I needed to know. Thank you. And so she took her card and she said, oh, I can arrange adoption for you. We don't charge. Look at that. She would have
Great.
never, she said, I didn't never knew the information I needed to know. I have a few
Hmm.
people who tell me that. I don't know,
Okay.
like,
Right.
and
Well, that's.
knowledge.
I mean, when somebody calls us up and they're saying I'm interested, I
Mhm.
assume that they probably, unless they've had the experience,
Mhm.
they don't know much about this at all, you
Right.
know. And
Mhm.
their hopes and dreams are based on God only knows what,
Right.
but it's not based on the needs of the kids.
Right. Mm.
Once they get introduced to the kids,
Mm.
then they can have a realistic belief and hope because you got to be hopeful when you walk into it, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, and it's the kids who tell the story.
Mhm.
I
Mm.
can't tell a story, you
Right.
know.
Right. Right.
Um,
Well, tell me about this. You had said this quote, the academic world has yet to catch up onto the foster care to prison pipeline. Tell us
right.
about that. Because that's big.
Um, I mean, I'm not an academic, so I can't speak for the academic world. All I know is when I went through school, which was
Hmm.
just a few years ago,
Hmm.
relatively speaking,
Hmm.
they didn't talk about foster care.
Yeah.
You know, because I took my MSW at 50 or 55 or something like that,
Hmm.
and they didn't talk about foster care. It wasn't an issue.
Mm.
You know, they still don't at
Wow.
this particular school. much less talk about the fact that a lot of the people who are in jail were in foster care or should have been. You know,
Yes.
um, it's
Yes. It's like
below.
I forgot the percentage
I
of
would
the
have
time.
gone to jail. I would have gone to jail, except for my parents wouldn't let me. You know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a high number. I forgot the stats on it, but it's a high number. I worked in a jail. And yeah, a lot of people that I talked to had been somehow touched in the system somehow.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but it's almost like they say you can actually tell the cops can actually tell which kid will be coming to see them by a certain age. I forgot how they
Yeah. I mean,
rating. Like just the fact that you even think you're in your head that you're going to pre-plan it is crazy.
yeah. That's. I know.
It's like
Yeah.
they're like, oh no, it's not. I'm pre-planning. It's just that there's certain things that are shown that show they will definitely be in jail by this age. And I was like, so you basically have pegged them out. And I hope the kids know this and say, I'm gonna show you right. I'm gonna show
Well, no,
you.
the kids know it, so they agree and they go.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I hope they start changing that around because
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
I think I became a success because I think in my head I assumed people would think I would end up a heroin addict like my mom or something. I don't know how they would think that because I was a kid, but whatever. In my head, I'm thinking like, oh, what am I going to be? It wasn't until my foster mother started putting other dreams and realities in my head that I said, oh, okay. Just because
Right.
that's her fate doesn't mean it's my fate. You know,
Exactly.
yeah,
And
it's
and the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and you come from no good stock, and you're going to be no good yourself.
yes, exactly. And even though, thank God, my foster mother never. She always told me you should be very happy that your mom, was unselfish enough to know that she couldn't do the job. And so she wasn't one of those like, yeah, your mom. That she would never. Oh no, she was very. I pay homage to my mother quite often because
Hmm.
the fact that she didn't try to have an abortion, right?
Okay.
Knew she was a heroin addict. So what are you gonna have a baby for? So some people say, well, that's horrible. But I was like, it's horrible, but I'm happy to be here. So I'll take
Yeah.
being a
Right.
heroin baby over being nothing.
Yeah.
I'll take that over being not being born. Because if I wasn't born, I know a lot of people would be dead right now. It would never been actually in existence. So
Hmm.
I mean, as much as everybody has their down days, but I've never had no down day that bad because I know my life has value.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
most people don't. Most foster kids don't know that. They
No,
don't.
because
Sorry.
nobody tells them.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I know my life has value because I was told a lot of times, a lot of different ways for
Right.
a long time.
Right.
And it still occurs,
Right.
and I'm 67 years old, and thank God I got good health, but
Yes.
I don't have a wife. I don't have kids. I don't
Right.
have a husband. I don't have anybody in my
Right.
life
Right.
because I'm like a monk,
Right. Right. Right.
But I've got nieces and nephews
Right.
and brothers
Oh.
and sisters,
Oh,
you know,
that's
and
nice.
I've lost three brothers,
Oh.
and it really hurts.
Yeah.
And I haven't lost them.
Mm.
I still have them.
You'll see them.
And my nieces and nephews keep me sane.
Oh
You
gosh. How
know,
many? How many you have? I saw a lot.
About 45, I think that was the last
Oh
count. I'm not sure.
my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Wow.
I
Wow.
mean, but they keep me sane. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like when I turned 18, then I didn't need family anymore.
Right.
No, I'm not 18 anymore, and I really need family. I need it more than I did when I was 18. You know,
Yeah, I see that too as I get older.
I didn't know much when I was 18. I was an ignorant little kid,
Mhm.
and my parents, well, my mother, she watched out for me. You
Mm.
know,
Mm.
and I remember once and I tell this story all the time. So I took a year off of college, right, to find myself. Well,
Mhm.
I think I found myself by now, but
Mhm.
when I was 22, after the year, I hadn't found myself, and my mother was not well, and she was too sick to deal with an idiot 20-year-old kid.
Mhm.
So she told my big sister to tell me to go back to college. My sister calls me up and she says, "You got to go back to college," Ma said.
Wow.
And I said, okay. And it was like, here's a 20-year-old kid. And I just went back to college. And it was a lot simpler in those days to go back to college. But, that's what it took. You got to go
Right.
back to college, Ma said. And that saved my life. I don't know I don't know if I'd be alive.
Well, look at that, and see you see the importance of a sibling.
Yep.
And that's another piece of foster care. Sibling separation drives me
Hmm.
insane because as your sister was able to coerce you into doing what was needed to be done because the
Yeah.
matriarch was sick and
Yeah.
couldn't do the banging out of like, come on, kid, let's get it together here. She couldn't do it, so the sister did it. And now imagine if we don't have our siblings. Our
No.
siblings teach us so much. Actually, everybody in the family has a dynamic role. I mean, we learn this in addiction, but just in general in foster care, a lot of people don't realize everybody in the family is a very intricate role in that human being developing to the highest height that they can. So
Hmm.
if I don't play my role as auntie or sister or cousin or brother or sister, that's a ball dropped.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So your sisters could have said, I ain't doing that, Ma. I got to worry about my own life. She could have been like selfish and like, I'm going to do my own thing. But she stepped up her game and you
Hmm.
were like, you really respected her, obviously.
I was afraid.
Fear does wonders. I know.
It worked.
He was afraid. I like that. If you're watching Sister, he's just playing.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
No, I wasn't afraid, Pats. No. No.
that's hilarious. Well,
She's
it
one of
sounds
my
like
heroes, actually.
I can tell because you wouldn't have listened to her if she wasn't. There's no way
Right.
you would have did total opposite.
Well,
Yeah.
it was also my mother had put 20 years of discipline into me.
Mm,
You will do what you're told, child.
right. That's how
You,
all parents
this
should have said.
decision has been made for you. You're not making that decision. You are going to do what I said.
That's the way it was.
And that's the
So
way kids need that. Kids need that because like I was a good kid, and
mm,
but I wasn't making good decisions
mm,
because kids will not make good decisions because they can't.
mhm,
That's how they're designed. They're
exactly.
not designed to make good decisions.
Right.
I mean, they do in certain contexts. Would
Yeah.
you like a peanut butter jelly sandwich, or would you like a peanut butter sandwich, or would you like a jelly sandwich? That's your
It's like
choice.
it's like I just
But you
want a
can't
sandwich.
say, yeah, you can't say what would you like to eat.
Right.
You narrow it down. For a 5-year-old,
Exactly. No, exactly. It's they need
developmentally.
guidance. Yeah, they need guidance. So
Anyway,
what do you see for foster youth in about 5 years? Like, what can we do as a community to protect them, first of all, and nurture them and guide them to their divine greatness?
um, on the macro level or
Mhm.
the micro level, you got to. It's
Macro and
such a
micro.
couple. Okay, well,
Mhm.
um, micro is we need people to reach out to the kids the
Mhm.
way the kids are.
Mhm.
If somebody can be a mentor,
Mhm.
okay, be a mentor. But
Mhm.
if you can raise kids,
Mhm.
go get a couple and raise them. You know,
Come on.
um, it's it is complicated, but it's not complicated. These are kids that need families, and there's a lot of them. Relatively speaking,
Yeah.
and if you get a kid who should be back with his birth family, get the kid back to their birth family.
Right.
And the social workers and the judges let them understand. You got to educate them.
Right.
But if you've got a kid whose birth family has fallen apart for the next 10 years or whatever, hold on to the kid and help the child reach his or her or their beautiful, beautiful legacy.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mm.
On the macro level, I think we have to do two things. I think we have to triple the budget,
Yeah.
going back to that discussion.
Mm.
But you know what we should do is
Mhm.
we should stop giving kids to the government.
Mm. Mm.
If we stopped giving kids to the government and gave kids to people,
Mm. Mm.
we would change the system immensely. Giving custody of a child to the government is like giving custody of a child to Microsoft or General Public or General Motors or Apple Computer Company.
Mm.
They can't raise kids.
No.
The government can't raise kids. Just because it's called the Department of Social Services doesn't mean it can raise kids. The government can't raise kids. People raise kids. All right. And so if we were to eliminate custody by government, this is like 3 people in the world know this, understand this,
Mhm.
and agree with it. So it's a minority position. But if we were to eliminate third party custody, governmental custody, um,
Or would that be privatized then?
no,
Oh,
no.
okay. That was like, wait a minute. So who would be so if a parent's kid could not be with them anymore, who would be the person? You know what I'm saying?
Foster parents, give them legal custody.
Okay.
You could do
Got
it temporarily.
it.
You could
Okay.
do it temporarily, right? You could do it
That's
for a weekend.
that's
But
true.
who's in charge of this kid? Now, if the
That's true.
government
I've
is,
seen some cases where kids got adopted and the agency had no clue that the parent, let me see how I get it right, that the parent had told the kid to leave, and so the kid's been out there and they're getting money for the kid for a
yeah,
long time.
there are people who should not be adoptive or foster parents.
Yeah.
Okay, that's clear. The system is not screening them out very well, is it?
No,
No.
no, it's not. They need somebody like me who's got a third eye.
Well, what you do, what you do is you say, okay, folks, you can't throw the kid out.
Right.
And that screens a lot of people out. They say, I can't. Well, I don't want to be involved in this. We say, okay, goodbye.
Right.
But when, like what you were saying before,
Mhm.
don't throw the kid out.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's a game changer. A lot of people say, well, yeah, but I thought foster parents could let the kid go if the kid is misbehaving. And if the answer is no, you can't, you know,
Right.
that screens a lot of people out.
Yes, it does help because
If you're the chief cook and bottle washer, not everybody wants to do that. But the people who do are good at it,
right. Hmm.
you know,
Wow. Thank you.
like
Wow.
like your foster mom.
Yes, she was very good. She had over, I don't know, she had probably over 15 kids total, probably in her lifetime, probably. And I didn't find out till later that her mom died when she was young, and she became like an orphan. Her grandfather raised her on a farm,
Okay.
so that's why she was very independent. Had her own house very young,
Mm-hmm.
something like 18, something really young. Had her own businesses, like
Okay.
very young. So she always wanted to help kids because she knew what that felt like.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
very important, very important.
It's
So I appreciate you so much. I see here you said on the are you down by the Lower East Side?
I'm in the Lower East Side. Yep.
Oh, you
That's
play
where I
the
live.
guitar, I see.
I do. Yep.
That's a great
Playing
instrument.
that keeps me sane. Helps keep me sane. My
That's right.
family keeps me saner, but I play
Right.
the guitar for my family, so it kind of works together.
Well, we thank you so much for coming on the town. Is there any last a piece of advice you'd like to give the audience that how we can help or anything? Or is there a website to go to for Downey
Yeah.
Side or
Downeyside.org.
Downey Side?
DOWNEY
Huh?
SIDE
Mm-hmm.
dot org.
Got it.
Yep.
Got it. Okay, I put it there, and I thank you so much for taking the time.
This has been a delight, Tanya. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. I really appreciate it. I didn't play any of my. We usually do Sketch City, but I didn't play any because I wanted to talk because I was late getting up. Sorry, guys. But we appreciate you so much, and hang out for one moment as we end. Thank you guys for watching. I'm trying to see who's up there. Thank you, Norma. I see you up there. Some other people I can't see who it is, but thank you very much for taking the time to watch. And we also have it on podcast, so please make sure you go to YouTube, like and subscribe. You can watch us on Spotify. And thank you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Hang out for a minute.